At the moment, 465 dairy cows, plus the replacements, the calves and the hopefully in-calf heifers, 230 replacement heifers. So if we can use as much technology as we can to make it as user-friendly for the farm worker, while also, I suppose, adopting and adapting the latest technology for our, I suppose, young farmers of the future, that's the purpose of our college and our farm. So we had a new rotary milking parlour built through 3 lockdowns, but it got built in 2020, I suppose, along with the milking unit, or to complement the milking unit. We have a drafting system. We actually have 2 drafting gates, a Dairy Master drafting system, which we had from the old parlour and kept, and a Alflex or a Sense Hub drafting system as well. So we're equipped with 3 automatic calf feeders, so 2 JFC, and our first calf feeder was supplied by Dairy Master. So between the 3 of them, they can feed 300 calves per day. I suppose a lovely piece of investment that we have got, and I suppose it wasn't cheap, but it has got a lot of use, both in the college from a teaching point of view, but also on the farm, is our NIR4, so near infrared reflectance technology, where we can, I suppose, in real time or in minutes, analyse the quality of our grass and the quality of our silage. Our newest tanker has now the NIR4 built into the tanker as well. So we might be familiar with using the slurry hydrometer to measure the quality of the slurry in our tank. We now can measure the quality of every load of slurry that's going out and apply accordingly, up the rate or reduce the rate per acre. The fertiliser spreader has a use on the farm, but you're also using it to train your young student as well to how to operate it correctly. Automatic calf feeders at grass, so it automatically dispenses feed to our calves at grass, and again it can be filled up, and it reduces, I suppose, the daily workload of feeding 300 calves. Just briefly, I suppose, what happens on the farm and how we make use of technology, both from a farming purpose but also from a teaching purpose.
These are the kind of new technology that has come on in more recent years. But you'll see there that it doesn't take long for nature to evolve and to develop a resistance. It's been quantified. It's not an exact science, like I said. So the financial cost of less effective medicine, Animal Health Ireland estimate the cost of partially ineffective treatments at about 8.4 million. And the total cost of parasitic worms in Ireland at about 237 million. This is a study done by Orla Keane on 24 Irish dairy calf to beef farms. Again, the problem is considerable. So benzimidazole is 71% showing resistance, levamisole is 25%. This is the one that surprised me here. I noticed the sample group was small, 17, but 100% showing resistance. Now it's thought that the fact that this drug is so convenient to use, I've used Bimectin for years, and I often thought, God, it's high time that I change to something else. But you know, it has consequences. So how do you deal with resistance? So there's lots of strategies there, there's 4 key ones for sheep, maybe to summarize them all, and they all maybe correlate together. So we try an alternate drug class treatment, so non-reliance on one particular class of drugs. An alternate, that definitely makes sense. You're not allowing animals to build up, or you're not allowing parasites to build up resistance to a standard type of drug. Lisa, we have Tom Keller here as well, our vet, so do you want to, maybe we can bring him up? Yeah.
Just if there's any questions that came to mind with all that really good information from Kevin, thanks so much. We do have a vet in-house here, so perhaps there's questions you guys on the ground meeting farmers have anything.
Can I ask you, Tom, in your practice, like, have you strategies or have you seen instances of this commonly?
We have. We've had what goes flocks, what goes resistance in both what goes the white trenches and the ivermectins.
Yes.
And we've had to go into the category 4, which would be the dissolvings.
Yes.
And you also say what's going to go to prescription, there's anthelmintics, what's going to category 4 and 5. Unfortunately, it's going to be very soon, we're all anthelmintics. And then you just suspicious that it is worms, and you ask for a batch sample from that batch, and sure enough, they're through the roof. You need a batch sample.
Just on the fecal count in terms of the thresholds, be interested to hear your thoughts about that whole 500 eggs per gram logic.
500 is quite high, because you need to figure out what's going to, is there resistance as well, so what's going to, when you fecal count beforehand, dose them. If you've got clinical science at 200, definitely dose them.
But then does that 500 start to cause issues whereby, look, we're farming organically for 10 years and we've embraced the fecal counts, but something that's caught me out is a lot of the advice is lean towards 500 eggs per gram, definitely dose. If it's 400 or if it's 499, definitely don't dose because it's such a rigid threshold. And I just wonder, does the advice need to be nuanced a little bit more to say,
or you have to
kind of, I would say that below 100 or 150, like you're just talking a very, very low level of infection, but 150 probably up to 800, it could be either way.
So that's why two, but that's what I'm talking about, you have to go to clinical science as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Trevor Donlan. Yeah, as Lisa said, QuantiFarm is mentioned all over the place here, and it's the reason we're here today. QuantiFarm as a project is an EU research project in its main focus, but increasingly a lot of these research projects now have a very applied dimension to them as well. So as part of that, we have two principal training activities that we had to coordinate through the project, and I want to thank Lisa for that in case I don't get an opportunity to do that at the end today. Lisa's done a great job in pulling everybody together on the same day in person, which is a tricky thing to do. So we have today's training event, and which is focused on advisors, and we'll have a different training event later in the year, which is more focused towards farmers on a different technology topic, robotic milking. So we've gone down into a bit of detail here already in terms of technology or a problem that technology can address. I want to kind of drag us back up a bit to a higher level and just talk a little bit about technologies in general and their application in agriculture, because that's what this project is about at its core. And I guess there's an argument out there that there's a lot of technology coming on stream that could be adopted within agriculture. And I guess the question mark for European agriculture, Irish agriculture, and whatever is our pace of adoption of technologies going to keep up with what's happening elsewhere in the world? So there's concern at a EU level that there's a lot of technology out there with potential benefits, and that the adoption of technology at an EU level could take place at a faster rate than is happening at present. And there's particular concern in Europe, I guess, because in Europe we still have the family farm model, so we still tend to have quite a lot of small and medium-sized farms, and what we know from research is that small and medium-sized farms tend to adopt technologies at a slower rate than larger, more commercial farms. Another aspect of this project is try to understand better what actually goes on in a farmer's head when they're exposed to a technology and they have to sit down and think about whether they're going to actually adopt it. So there's been a whole range of interviews done around Europe with farmers to try to understand how farmers think about that. And what that actually reveals is that farmers don't all fall into one particular category. There are different types of farmers, just as there are different types of people in the general public. And not everybody has the same inclination towards technology adoption. Not everybody has the same level of confidence that technologies will work or that they'll be able to use them, or that technologies won't actually, instead of helping them, will actually reduce their skill set over time. So there's a whole range of factors behind why people adopt tech. The longer title is Assessing the Impact of Digital Technology Solutions in agriculture under real-life conditions. Around Europe, all these projects are running what are called test cases. So they're looking at the application of particular technologies in countries around Europe and trying to understand better what the costs and benefits of adopting these technologies are. And in a general sense as well, we're trying to understand what the barriers and enabling factors in terms of technology adoption actually is. And who are we trying to engage with ultimately here in terms of the results of the project, where we're trying to engage with and provide messages for farmers, for advisors, for technology providers, and ultimately for policymakers. One of the take-home messages emerging from the research is that, you know, none of these people should be expected to operate in isolation from each other in terms of technology adoption, that there's a need for a high level of interaction across these four categories of stakeholders if we're going to accelerate the rate of technology adoption in agriculture around Europe.
We're already kind of working naturally in groups. So I come from an education background and experiential learning. So learning by doing and working with each other is very much part of my MO. What is digital technology? There's lots of different definitions. We've heard precision agriculture, smart farming, data-driven decision making. We have Internet of Things. We have AI now on the rapid rise. So I just want you to think about when you're talking to farmers, what are they referring to? They could be referring to precision livestock, the cow collar specifically, or they could be referring to an app. Like, what actually are they referring to? And what are you referring to? So as an advisor, you might want to think about, are we actually on the same page even with our language? What do you think are the biggest drivers and barriers of ag tech adoption for farmers in Ireland, particularly around the topic that we're focusing on today? So if you think about AMR and parasitology and the tech that's out there, could you just have a quick conversation with each other? Confidence, maybe. Serena, you were saying as well. Yeah, lack of knowledge. Yeah, they've been discouraged maybe by that one, and then they're so busy they're not going to go back and think about it again. Yeah.
It's not on the scheme in the first place.
So we're talking about being actually having tailored advice for what's happening on your farm with your animals, and then tailored for the individual animal, and then that sort of demonstrated evidence, like it's been said. And to be able to visually see it for what's happening in your farm. And I think that's what the benefit of today, to see technologies in action, to see what's going on at the college farm, to see what technologies are in use. Why is that peer influence so great? Why is it so helpful to go out and see what else is actually going on? I think we all have our strengths and we all know part of this process, but that it really starts from encounter, consideration, decision, and then post-adoption, right? So how can we support farmers throughout the entire process? And how can we consider their own individualized needs, or as Sean said, you know, their own concerns about their individual animals on the farm? How can we help them in that process? Does it make sense for them? Is it going to give them enough return on investment? Do they even know what their options are, right? And so there's a lot of different personal factors which we may think of. There's a lot of external factors, right? There's balancing factors, like maybe it's an older farmer that's starting to, like myself, have back issues or something, and they can't be as physically active. So is there a technology that actually helps them to farm longer, be more comfortable because they have a a labor-saving device that's going to make just their job a little bit physically easier on them? So there's lots of motivation and goals, values and beliefs, what's happening in the local area. And then what is that training piece? What's happening once they get the technology? There's also a page in your packet that sort of says, here's the farmer's decision-making process, and then here maybe as an advisor, how could you get involved? And I'm certainly not saying you don't already know this. I'm sure these things are very familiar to you, but perhaps it's presented in a slightly different way, and you might think, this is a slightly different way I could get involved. But you're the ones that are on farm on a daily basis or very regularly. And so these are just things that may or may not benefit you and in your interactions with farmers. This is something that's one of our partners in the project came up with, and it's just using the acronym We Thrive to get you to think maybe before you go on a farm visit, think about where you're going and what you're going to face and be building that trust. And then during your visit, what are some things about tech affinity, their heritage, the risks that they might be concerned about. To wrap up, there's lots of different things on the website. There's also a toolkit that actually allows you to go and click and look at recommendations. They were uploaded from the Fair Share inventory, which is another project you may have heard of, with loads of technologies. There's about 400 or 500 now on our website. At the conclusion, when we think about technology, how is this digital solution actually going to benefit the farm financially, right? Isn't that a big question that you get asked a lot? What about my bottom line? What's happening with that? So if the tool isn't providing the tangible benefits, or if the farmer doesn't really see a perceived benefit, then they're not really likely to adopt it, right? So helping them to think about long-term, including successors, and that individual, we keep coming back to that individual kind of targeted solution. So you are really essential, and we really appreciate the work that you do in helping farmers in these decisions, whether the tech is appropriate or not. You're there to support them.
Just a quick activity. Can I get everybody to take out their mobile phone and then just open up a web browser on your phone? And can I get you to go to this website? So you can just type in app.oversight.com.
I'm Sarah O'Dwyer, so I'm the same vintage as Tommy. I graduated a year after him, so 21 years ago, and I've worked in equine referral hospitals for the last 20 years. And about 3 years ago, I dealt with a really catastrophic outbreak of equine parasite disease on a stud farm where a lot horses died, and I got really into parasites then. Even though I'd seen it over the previous years, this really tickled my interest, and so we're conducting research now with UCD in equine parasitology, trying to type larvae and things like that. And from that now I've moved into this position 2 days a week while still working in clinical practice, and now going into ovine, bovine and small animals. So it's really interesting once you get down into the nitty-gritty of it. I suppose I'm here to talk about the oversight, and we want to keep it more technology, but and we could be here for days talking about fecal egg counts and parasite control programs on farms and what to do and how to interpret them, but that's a completely different talk. This is about technology, so I'm going to be really brief in my 2 slides and then hand you back over to Aidan. But I suppose just to get into your heads about what a fecal egg count is, a fecal egg count is part of a whole parasite control program, whether that's weighing them and implementing all these different branches. It's not just one technology versus another. We have to use them all together to create a symbiotic parasite control program. And it's a parasite control program. It's not a parasite eradication program. And that's the other thing I think people have to get into their heads. So a fecal egg count is just telling us the number of eggs in that pile of poo that we have picked up at that present moment in time. And it is a reflection of the number of adults of certain worms in that animal at that time. So if you just take one small fecal pile and it's over 48 hours old and it's dry, that's not going to give you the same representation of a cow or a horse that's just done the poo, and you take 4 little parts from within that whole fecal pile. Fecal egg counts are really, really important as part of a parasite control program, but it's not a silver bullet, it's not a get out of jail card, and it's not binary. You have to take into account a whole load of different things with it. And it's a risk assessment. That's, if you take anything away from today, it's that it has to be a risk assessment for everything. And so when Tommy was talking earlier and you were talking about the 500 egg count, you're right, it's not binary. This machine, if it floats in a solution and it has a morphology, then we can teach the AI to find it. So for example, we have a call with Qatar. They're not really bothered about sheep, they really love camels. But the technology doesn't care. If we wanted to find tomatoes in fecal samples, if we program it, You think I knew about this, but I didn't until September. But if you program it, it's easy then. It just does it over and over and over and over again. It'll find whatever you tell it to find in the feces, and everything else doesn't care about it. You need science backed, you need to have sensitivity, specificity, accuracy, precision. It's all very well, saying this machine finds things, but you have to prove it to the gold standard. It has to be repeatable. The thing is that AI is brilliant because it doesn't know it's Friday evening. It doesn't know it's Saturday night. It doesn't care if there's 9,000 coccidia or 20,000 coccidia. It's going to count them all. I'd never be able to count 20,000 coccidia. I'd be gone after the first 10. So that's where AI is really, really useful as well. One of the main men who did this paper is actually a guy called Johan Höglund, and he has 3 of these devices in the University of Uppsala, and he has verified it for, can we see? Yeah, we can, for Haemonchus, and in sensitivity and specificity to the gold standard, which he says is him, which I would kind of, having met him, believe that he is a world expert. Assessing whether treatment is necessary. And there's a big paper about how to do fecal egg reduction tests, and you don't just take a sample, dose your animal, and come back 2 weeks later and take a sample and compare the two. There is certain criteria when you're doing a fecal egg reduction test, so do it with your vet or with somebody who has read the guidelines. There has to be a certain number of animals. It has to have a certain egg count before you do the fecal egg reduction test. This is really important for me. This is the biggest thing, because if you have, in my opinion, definitely in equine, and I've done a lot of equine work in worming. If you have a parasite problem, you have a parasite pasture problem. It's not an animal problem. The problem is your pasture, because cows don't cough parasites to each other, and they don't eat each other's poo, right? So it's how the pasture level of contamination is being monitored. So again, I completely agree, with the individual animal may not be affected by the parasites that are in it, but it's to know what is going on your pasture. That's the key. And knowing where it's going, right, this group, highly contaminated pasture, what can I follow it with? What can I do with this pasture next so that my high-risk animals don't follow these low-risk animals? That's the key. And then again, treating efficacy, and then do these animals need to be treated?
The idea, as Sarah said, this is based on artificial intelligence. It's a point-of-care device. Does a farmer need to go off and buy this? No. This device is designed to complement people working with farmers. So I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, one of the vets that we work with in the Naas, Blessington area took the device out to a local mart and actually spoke with farmers who are buying animals there and then on the spot. And they literally went down and actually picked up samples and tested them there and then on the spot from newly bought animals, tested them and found them positive, and then gave them a recommendation of, okay guys, these need to be quarantined, this is what you need to do with them, and then went off. And so for very small charge for running the fecal egg count there and then the spot, a result was back within 15 minutes. Think about the time it takes for pick it up off the field, put it in a bag, bring it to your vet puts it into an envelope, it goes to the on-post depot, sits overnight, then it may go out the next day, it might be 2 days. You're at least 48 to 72 hours in open temperature. Any eggs in there have either died, larvated, hatched, whatever. The actual efficiency of that sample now goes way down. And Sarah said earlier that we have 2 types of tests. We have what's called a standard and an extended. You bring the point of care, you prepare the sample, and you use AI to analyze it. What we're going to do in a few minutes is we're going to go up and actually get some of you to come up and actually prepare a sample, put it on, and the AI is going to analyze it there and then on the spot and give you back a result in near real time, and we'll have a result. So you've all logged into the web app. You see the results that you get back. You see the imagery of the eggs as they're coming in. So within this classroom today, you will have literally gone from having a sample, tested it, done, and you'll have information and analysis back to make a decision on what you want to do. So for all the scans that we're running, every scan is capturing a minimum number of images, and all those images are all telling us a story. They're either positive or negative. If they're positive, they're telling us this is what eggs look like. If they're negative, they tell us what debris, what fat looks like, what weanlings look like, what this looks like, all helping us to be able to differentiate and tell the difference. That role of technology is sharing that information. They're able to look up that and go, okay, I know there's something happening here. I can see there's an increase in emetodiris. I'm seeing there's an increase in this, and so on. So the idea is that it's providing more and more complementary information for those people. So now they're actually getting more information to know more targeted treatment rather than just blanket treatment. So perfect, you're within the 0.1 range. So grab the little spatula here. Just grab that, and then you can put down the sample.
Tweezers.
Just grab the tweezers, yeah. And then just, why don't you stir that up for me? And then swirl it like you're swirling a nice glass of whiskey.
Wine.
or wine, whatever. Then take that syringe, and then bring up around 3 ml. So they see the little injection port here. Yeah, stick that into there. And then hold it upright, hold this up this way because I wanted to let the air, and then inject. And then tap bovine because that's a calf sample, and then press start. Now you can take off your glove. That's it, you walk away. You go have a cup of coffee, whatever. It's going to float, it's going to find that sticker first, then it's going to float. So it's going to let the parasites float up to the top, and then it'll start taking pictures. So in the next 15 minutes, we're going to have a result, but it has to let those parasites float first. If you've got large-scale farms, things like that, getting a quite number gives them a really good idea of what the kind of the health of their actual, their fields are.
So yeah, my name is Nick Cotter. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cotter Agritech. We're native here to Limerick. We're on the other side, on the Kerry border in Abbeyfield. I suppose my interest in parasites, which you've heard already today, comes from, I'm a 2024 Nuffield Scholar, and my topic is around getting off blanket treatment. It's an evaluation of the current methods of what have brought us to the situation we're in, and internationally with resistance exploding, and how we might overcome this for a sustainable sheep sector going forward. So I suppose the company motto there, treat less, grow more. The product line that you're going to see cuts across both AMR in terms of making, I suppose, making vaccines much easier to administer to small lambs, which is key in reducing antimicrobial usage. And then some of our products, we have an automatic dosing gun that calibrates the dose to the weight of each individual animal, which came up a couple of times today in terms of avoiding overdosing, which is actually quite a big problem, particularly with your ivermectins, or moxidectins, sorry, if they're given to lambs under 20 kilos at more than double the rate, you will kill them, and we have a little bit of experience doing that, unfortunately, but obviously underdosing is a huge issue from a resistance point of view. And the other product I'll talk about is our app Smartworm that assesses the risk of each animal for the need and their likely need for treatment to get away from treating whole mobs and only treating the individuals in that mob that actually need it. So look, we were founded in 2019. We're brothers. We grew up on a sheep farm. We're a family who's been farming sheep for 20 years. We went organic in 2014, and that's when we got into a lot of what we've talked about today in terms of digital ag tech to improve the profitability and sustainability of the farm and find a way of making money being organic farmers. Trying to vaccinate young lambs, as your organic advisor will tell you, you should be doing to try to cut out your antibiotic use. All nice to say it, but very difficult to actually go and do. It often looks like this. One lad catching the lambs one by one and the other lad jabbing them, and that you can stab them in the hand. You can do any amount of different things wrong. You know, you have to mark each individual lamb. It's just very, very time consuming work and very, very difficult.
See, there's the lamb caught now. His feet are off the ground, but he's totally immobilized now. I mean, the load cells are built into this, so it's not actually on the ground. Another better weak point. So there's no leveling. So you find my readers after I've on a loop recording, so it's after picking up the target's recording his weight. So that kind of goes that set. So send to the next job. Now, you'll see just to release the lamb, I just pull the bar back, the lamb drops down, There he's down on the ground. He's warm as a cow.
As an organic farm, you have a lot of jobs to do at a young age with these lambs in terms of proper administration of your blowfly treatment, or that's a waste of money, proper use of Heptavac, doing those nematovirus treatments, getting those weight gains. A lot of the good practices associated with organic farming are made possible with this type of equipment, and that's really where it comes in. Reducing AMR usage, because we can go in and vaccinate those lambs at an early age. Adult sheep can be done through it as well, so it's really an all-in-one machine for sheep handling jobs.
Yeah, go on, push on, don't be afraid of it. Very good. Very good, now let it go. Yeah, so.
Something I just want to pick up on, because it came up in discussions today about generational renewal being a huge threat to Irish farming. I mean, it's something that we didn't really think the product actually solved, but it does in a great way. And a lot of our customers are some of the older farmers who want to get young people engaged. It's very hard to ask someone who's either a townie background or has never worked with sheep to jump into a room like this and catch every sheep one by one, and it's just drudgery and hard work. Whereas something like this, there's a bit of technology going on, we've got data to look at, it's an interesting job. And as someone who never planned on being in the farming sector, I went to college and did law and business and kind of fell back into farming through this. It's made it really interesting, and that's really key to attract young people into the sector and to retain them. All the different wayheads out there we integrate with, it gets bounced over to the wayhead either by Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. It goes from your wayhead over to the phone, and the phone sends it on to the gun, and it calibrates in real time to the volume required. In our trials, it's reducing the dose volume used by between 20 and 30%. Obviously that's a saving, but the big piece is avoiding underdosing. Every animal is getting what they need. SmartWorm, which is our headline product. So this is a mobile phone app that advises in real time based on a lot of the factors we talked about come into play on parasites: weather, weight gain, clinical signs, a fecal egg count. They're all part of our analysis. And we provide a real-time recommendation for this animal that they either likely do need a parasite treatment or they don't. We've worked on this for the last 5 years. I mentioned UCD in Queens, and with Beef and Lamb New Zealand, we've been working with them for the last 2 years to prove it in that environment. And across all our trials, we're reducing the drug use by 40 to 50% without an impact on the production of these animals compared to if we just drench them all on the same day. Together, when we combine these technologies, this is the highest level of precision we're seeing in the animal medication space. You're talking more than 70% of a reduction in the use of these medicines when we combine these two together versus if we're just going in and blanket treating the animals on a 4-week basis. So we have a set of advanced algorithms that we've developed and deep learning technology that sits behind this app and assesses these bunch of factors to figure out who are the individuals that do and don't need treatment. So I suppose this idea of only treating the individuals in a flock or in a group or in a field that need it is becoming super commonplace. In fact, it's a regulatory standard with selective dry cow therapy. Blanket is illegal, except there are some exceptions, but by and large it's illegal across Europe since 2022. Over on the crop side, selective spraying technology is becoming huge. You see John Deere with these cameras on the big boom sprayers, and the cameras are going along identifying only the weeds and only spot spraying the weeds as opposed to spraying the whole crop. So simple green or red indication. There's 150,000 animals in our our algorithm development database. It's real-time operation, as you can see. It's not slowing the farmer down in any way. Some of these auto drafters are rated at a speed of about 800 lambs per hour, and this isn't slowing that down. So setup, it's an app on your phone. What we need from you as the farmer is an estimate of pasture availability. If you're grass measuring, you can enter in that. Otherwise, you just eyeball it. Was there roughly 6, 7, 8, 9 centimetres available in front of the animals since they were last weighed? And a guess of pasture quality: was the pasture either poor, average or good? If you've got analysis, one of those fancy machines that John was on about, that'll be a mighty job. But again, estimates are okay. And if you have a fecal egg count result from within the last 10 days, we'll take that into account as well. So that information goes in, hook up your wayhead and your stick reader, and then you're into the real-time screen of either dosing or not dosing. Farmers are not a slave to this. If they want to override it at any point, they can, and we provide in-app statistics of when they decided to do something different to the algorithm. Well, how did that work out? Was it beneficial to dose that animal or was it not? In 90% of cases, it's not beneficial because the algorithms are working at just over 90% accuracy. But nonetheless, this is important with building confidence with farmers that they feel like they're in control and they can test the system for its accuracy. Fecal egg count, as I mentioned, but it is optional. Grass quality, grass availability. The treatment history, 4 weeks ago, what did we use? Was it long acting? Was it a short acting? Etc. Was the animal dosed or not dosed last time? Their performance, so what their growth trajectory is looking like, and also their weight in real time, which we use to understand what age that animal likely is and what their likely risk is to parasites. Have they developed? Have they got acquired immunity? Do they not? Validation-wise, mentioned some of the partners there. I'll just cut straight to results. So that's just the ROC curve. Just shows basically 91% accuracy on the algorithms to cut through the data. So you're not compromising performance. But then when we talk about the usage of the drugs, we're using 40 to 50% less. If you can use something like SmartWorm to prevent the resistance in the first instance, that's where the massive saving is. So the earlier you use this technology, the better. It's not a case of only pulling this out when you're already in a mess with resistance. So what we've talked about, I suppose, so far is some labour saving, some medicine saving, and preventing resistance. In terms of, I suppose, solutions, what to pick or what to advise your farmers to use, there are many. The last speaker has referred to it. It's really a basket of options that we're looking at and farmers picking a few of them rather than all of us competing against each other for the same space. It doesn't work like that. There isn't a single silver bullet in this space. I would be combining these three. Vaccine technology is on board. I met some researchers in Australia who are working on it, but we're minimum probably 15 years away from a roundworm vaccine being available. There is one available for homuncus, so just be aware that if you are coming across farms who have massive issues with homuncus, there is a vaccine available. Even if you don't decide to use this app at all or go down this route, blanket treating every animal is going to result in resistance. People will do it at different rates depending on how often they're drenching the animals, but it is 100% inevitable that if you're blanket treating animals, you will end up with resistance. We need to be not treating every animal. It's not good practice to be giving animals drench and medicine that don't need it.